Hi, this is still Lorenzo YouTube channel. Okay, like I said in our previous video, I'm going to be explaining operators variation. But before I explain that, I want to bring a recap. What happened? Why are we doing this? Is to enlighten the public, right? And before I go to the meaning of operators variation, let me explain to you or use a story to explain to you what humility can do. Now, years back, when I was still working in one of the commercial airlines in Nigeria, I won't mention the name, in order not to, but this is a good thing actually. So I was in one of the stations, okay, let me tell you, Uyo Airport, Akwa Ibom State. So a young, beautiful lady walked up to the cabin crew. I was the flight dispatcher on board, walk up to the cabin crew and say, you know what, good morning, ma, good morning, sir, good morning. She was trying to get my attention, but I now channeled that to the crew. Hey, please, can you talk to the crew? Now, she met the crew, and to my greatest surprise, what came out of that lady's mouth shocked me. That humbled me. He said, Eluma, please, this is my first time of flying. I've never flown in an aircraft before. Even my uncle had to buy me this ticket so that I will have the experience. Please guide me through this experience. Thank you very much. Men, the crew have not even finished, the cabin crew have not even finished answering her and applauding her for being humble like that. The captain left the cockpit where he was discussing with one of the engineers or one of his crew and came out. I said, who said that? He said, this young lady. He said, please upgrade her to business class. That is humility. Please upgrade her on my account. Please. Thank you very much. It might interest you to know that in some companies, this is also allowed. The captain's discretion, because it's the PIC, pilot in command. Now, you see, that girl got the best experience of just flying for 55 minutes just because she was humble. She opened up. So I was expecting anybody that is having a challenge, the way you go about it also matters. I will borrow the words of my father, the man I respect so much, that says the way you correct someone that made a mistake can also be a mistake. Maybe Comfort made a mistake. Maybe the way the air hostess corrected Comfort is also a mistake. So let's not digress. Let's go to operators variation. What is operators variation? I will use a simple terms that will make a layman understand. Operators variation simply means there are certain things certain operators do that is approved by them according to their operations manuals, ops manual part A, B, C, D, and the operational specification that is not approved for the other person. For instance, those days, Dana Air carry human remains, which is HUM, H-U-M, which is dead bodies, corpse, carcass, whatever you call it. But Air Peace doesn't. Air Peace carries live animal, but Dana doesn't. This is what is called operators variation. That this guy is doing it does not mean the other guy is also doing it. So you need to check what is approved for this guy. So that's operators variation. So you need to check. Maybe she flew with a different airline that say, you can put your phone on flight mode. That does not automatically make it right for her to put her phone on flight mode in another airline. You need to find out. Let me explain to you. The moment you are booking your ticket and you tick those boxes, you are also signing a contract that you are ready to obey and you are ready to be compliant with orders issued by captain and his crew. Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulation Part 17, I think Part 17, 17.89.1.2 was talking about you are supposed to obey every order issued by captain and his crew. So when you don't obey matters issued by orders issued by captain and his crew, you are violating. It's a violation. So I'm trying to clear the air. I want us to understand this thing. If you enter an airplane and you disobey an issue or an order or an instruction issued by captain and his crew, you're already violating. So let's get this. Let's understand this, right? Because if the captain say you should off your phone, means it is for your own safety. You need to off your phone because, like I said, EMI, electromagnetic interferences, and RFI, radio frequency interferences, these are signals emitted by some of all these electronic devices that tend to, number one, reduce signal quality, GPS signal, global positioning system, and tend to make those equipments, just like GPS, the ILS, instrument landing system, that's like when you're landing. That's why I mentioned critical phases of flight, because in critical phases of flight, your phone being off might tend to mislead the crew upon landing. If you remember, some years back, a certain type of Samsung was issued by Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority and some aviation organizations that it shouldn't be put on board. It shouldn't fly because maybe they perceive that there are some unstable signals emitted by this device. So please, let's understand this, that aeroplane works by signal. Yes, they work by signals. They work with GPS, global positioning system. ILS work on GPS because there are certain equipment installed in the aircraft that is working with a ground-based equipment. Right? So these two work in tandem. They work in pari passu. They communicate to themselves. Is the distance measuring equipment that will communicate with the aircraft and tell you the distance you are from this VOR, the distance you are from this airport, the distance you are from this reporting point. So please, I'm just trying to clear the air. So next time you board an aircraft and you are asked to listen or to adhere to the instruction issued by captain and his crew, please, it is not something that somebody woke up and started doing. It might interest you to know that we have regulation in aviation. We have regulation from Part 1 to Part 21. Part 21 just joined few years ago, which is the flying of drones. You are not even permitted to fly drones anyhow, especially around the airport, unless you have a license, unless you have, do you understand? You have a authorization. There are drones flown around the airport, but if you check NOTAMs for aviators, you see that there are NOTAMs that are giving us prior information that these drone actions are going to be taken. So you need to know that aviation industry is highly regulated. Just like you don't know, a pilot that is flying Airbus cannot jump and go and fly a Boeing. He needs to go for what is called transition training. Even if that captain has flown for 40 years, does not automatically gives him a type rating to go and fly a different fleet if he's not trained and rated and of course current on that aircraft. Because you might be rated on it, you have flown Boeing for 15 years and you drop Boeing and you enter the Airbus and you flew Airbus for like 3 years and you are no longer current on the Boeing, you think you can just jump onto Boeing aircraft and fly. No, aviation is highly regulated. You need to go for a currency. You need to do a proficiency check. A proficiency check which will guarantee that, okay, this guy still understands this instrument and is not going to endanger the lives of passengers and crew. And of course, the properties on board. So in our next video, I'm still going to be dwelling more on this and I'm going to be explaining how these things affect the instruments on board the aircraft. Thank you very much.